Well, welcome along to Silverstone, everybody. We've got round 7 of the 2023 Ferrari Challenge UK coming up for you in just a few moments' time. Over what are cloudy skies here at Silverstone. A 30-minute race today. We'll have qualifying and a further 30-minute race tomorrow as well. Our penultimate weekend of racing in the 2023 Championship. And all is still mathematically very much up for grabs over the course of this weekend. Well, we haven't had much of a summer, really, within the UK, but the sun is peeking through the clouds here at Silverstone, and the ambient temperature has climbed quite a lot since qualifying this morning, so it'll be interesting to see what effect that might have on the cars. 20 degrees the air temperature now, the track temperature is rising all of the time, and it's just a really light wind, not much of a wind at all. The cars are slowly making their way onto the grid, so whilst they start to form up on the grid, let's look back at some of the highlights from last time out when we were at Brands Hatch. And Sickins start our race from pole position. Stuart Marsden sneaks up inside of Jonathan Satchler. Going to be a second win of the season for Hans Sickins. He is top of the times. Through goes Andrew Morrow. It is Graham Dazil for Meridian Modena that are going to pick up his first win of the season. A great weekend of racing at Brands Hatch as we head into the latter stages of the 2023 Championship standings. I mentioned earlier on that everything is still up for grabs in terms of the Championship, so let's look at the current point standings. Well, in the Trofeo Pirelli, Andrew Morrow has a 16-point advantage between himself and Hans Sickins and Carl Cavers, who are identically tied on 73 points, second in the Championship, with John Dillon sitting there in 4th. Graham Dazil is 5th. He was the man that won last time out at Brands Hatch, and Faisal El Faisal is 6th. Elliot Pickering, who's only done a part season, sits there in 7th, but Elliot is on the grid here at Silverstone. So that's Trofeo Pirelli. Let's have a quick look at what's going on in Coppa Shell at the moment. Whilst Andrew Morrow leads Trofeo Pirelli, Coppa Shell is being led quite substantively by Paul Hogarth, and he will look to see whether he can build on that advantage in Coppa Shell. He has a 23-point lead between himself and Paul Simerson, who is second in the Championship standings, with Stuart Marsden sitting there in 3rd. Then it's Johnny Satchell, Chris Smith and Paul Rogers that wrap up the top 6 ahead of Peter Hunter, former rally driver, who's there in 7th place. Julian Dye, Robert Rees and William Terrier, who's had mixed fortunes this season, sits 10th in the Championship standings in Coppa Shell. But neither of those championships could be stitched up mathematically in this race that we've got coming up for you very shortly. That is impossible. So Paul Hogarth has had a brilliant season. He leads the Coppa Shell Championship standings, and we managed to catch up with Paul a few days ago.
Your interest in cars and also in motor racing, how did it start?
My dear mum says it probably started when I was about 6 or 7, and she used it as a bribe to get me to go to the dentist. And so that was a Matchbox car that occasionally she would buy me. But you know, I've always loved cars. I was desperate to pass my test and get out on the road as quickly as I could. It's been a passion of mine all my life, and I've been very fortunate to be able to do a bit of racing over the years. Latterly, the last 5 seasons in Ferrari Challenge UK.
Why the Ferrari Challenge?
I actually got introduced to the 488 Challenge by my local dealer. He said, you know, you really should try and sit in one of these challenge cars because they're a joy to drive. And one of the owners was having a day at Silverstone, and he very kindly let me sit in the car. This chap was amazing because he literally just let me stay paddling around for ages. And when I came anyway, you're really enjoying this, stay out, have fun. So I think I did most of the day. I was smitten then, to be honest. I said to Dave, you know, I must see if I can get one of these and maybe enter the Ferrari Challenge. And I've never looked back, really. It's just been 5 amazing years.
This season we're seeing Paul Hogarth perform back absolutely at his best. Where's it come from, Paul?
I think it's because I've got a chance to be competing for a place on the podium, a place in the championship. You actually come in full of hope every weekend, and I think you do try harder. I think you commit yourself to more pain, if you like, to get there, and therefore the rewards are so sweet. And once you've been on that top step of that podium, you don't want to give it up.
What is the ambition this season? Surely it's got to be P1 in the championship.
Oh gosh, yeah, it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, I've got to be challenging for that. That's got to be the goal, and I'll certainly give it my very, very best. It would be my best achievement in motor racing ever, so it would be amazing.
Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to Silverstone in the sunshine. Here we are for race 1 of our Ferrari Challenge weekend here at this iconic circuit. And talking of icons, I'm delighted to welcome alongside me Amanda Stretton. How are you? And you and I have both flown in from California, and we've brought this weather with us.
We have. I mean, talk about a warm welcome. The weather has changed dramatically since we all arrived first thing this morning. And yes, lovely coming back from California, where it was unfeasibly hot actually, to the beautiful weather here at Silverstone. And how exciting it is to be here on the grid just ahead of the race. I'm actually just going to peel off here and have a quick chat with Stuart Marston. Now, Stuart had a bit of an incident yesterday in quali, so he's now in a different car. Stuart, I'm sorry to dwell on the sort of unfortunate, but just tell us quickly what happened.
Slick tyres in the wet yesterday, just bedding some brakes in, and then started to get a bit too confident, opened it up and into a wall at about 1:30, ripped the car off.
Okay.
Not too good, but we got a spare car, really good. Ran well today in qualifying, so looking forward to a good race.
How challenging is it getting into a new car, one that you're sort of unfamiliar with? Does it feel the same, or they can always be a bit different?
I come from a ski background where when we do ski jumping and you have big crashes, you have to just get back straight back on it and just forget what happened behind you. So everything from yesterday's behind me, and I'm just going to be putting in some good laps. I've got Al Faisal in front of me. He's a really quick driver, so if I can stay in behind him for the first few laps, he'll take me through quite a few cars. So
first couple of corners always quite tight here, and then it really opens up. So is that your target? Just hang on to the back of him for those few laps?
There's going to be carnage in the first 3 corners, as there always is, and it's the pot luck if you can get through that. Last year I started 14th, and by the end of the first lap I was 4th place. So it's who's got the confidence and who's got a bit of luck on the day. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it will go well for today.
Sun is shining. Good luck. Thank you very much, Stuart. Well, he sounds much more positive.
Absolutely. Talk about glass full. That's Stuart Marston, isn't it? Absolutely great to hear from him. And of course, Stuart Marston doing really, really well, in my opinion, in the championship as we pass Robert Rees and Faisal Al Faisal alongside you there as we're heading up this grid now. And this beautiful collection of 488 Challenge Evos. And I always wax lyrical, Amanda, about when you've got a blank canvas like a 488 Challenge Evo, what a beautiful car.
They really are good looking. And it's wonderful as well when you actually hear them go round, because when they're on full chat, particularly on a big track like Silverstone, it really is music.
James Collado just walking past me. Top man. Le Mans 24-hour winner. What a star.
Very busy drinking coffee by the looks of it, James is.
Listen, I'm going to peel off now, if I may, and grab a word with Paul Simerson, who drives this utterly beautiful 4A Challenge Evo. So the last thing Paul needs just before the start of the race is someone like me to stick a microphone up his trumpet, but to heck with it. Now, Paul Simerson, last night we were at a little lemonade soiree where you were presented with a trophy, and the trophy presenter is the man that's right in front of you, Paul Hogarth, and he said it's the only weekend, Simo, you're going to get this weekend. The only trophy you're going to get this weekend. Surely that's more of an incentive than ever before, isn't it, Paul?
Look, I'm going to see if I can change that perception. But I'm going to reserve judgment and say little, Dave, until we get across the finishing line.
Well, we wish you the best of luck always, Paul Simerson. How are you feeling in the car? Everything? You looking very comfortable and cool and collected?
Yeah, all good, no problem. Just a regular Saturday run out.
Well done you. Paul Simerson then with a fantastic attitude as he is going to try and right the wrongs of Paul Hogarth just in front of him, Amanda, who presented him with that trophy just last night. Are you going to grab a word? Go on.
Well, I can. So, Paul Hogarth, we're going to grab a quick word with you. We've just had a chat with Paul Simerson behind. There's a little bit of a needle with the two of you and a couple of trophies that were handed out last night. Has this put a target on your back?
I think I probably should have kept my mouth shut last night, really. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, won't we? It's all talk. We'll see what we can do when we're out on the track.
Great stuff. Right, well, you are currently pole position in Coppa Shell. I'm going to see if we can move up here to Carl Cavers, who looks very focused. Can we have a word with Carl?
Yeah.
Right, Carl, I managed not to chat to you after quali. I'm going to be a little bit harsh, but so far you've been a bridesmaid this year.
Yeah.
Is today, starting on pole, going to make you a bride?
Let's see what destiny gives us, shall we? Who knows? I've got Andrew one side, Hans behind. I think it's going to be quite a competitive race, but I'm up for it.
What's Silverstone like for you? Do you like it?
I love Silverstone. It's a fast-flowing track, suits these cars perfectly. So it's somewhere we can really get the best out of the car.
And of course, starting on the inside for the first corner as well, that must be an advantage.
Yeah, without a doubt. As long as I get the run into the corner, we should be okay, good to go.
Great stuff. Okay, well, I've 1 minute to go. Good luck. Hope we can chat to you afterwards. Oh, there you are.
Of course, Amanda. Do you know what? I'm going to do something. This was off script. I'm going to walk backwards now because you said I couldn't do that. And I can, because I want to catch up with perhaps one of the unluckiest drivers in the Ferrari Challenge UK this year, and that's John Dillon, and he's shut the door.
Well, we've only got 1 minute to go.
We've got a minute to go. Hey, I like to run things close to the wire. Come on, let me grab a quick word with John Dillon. John, I've just said on air that you have got to be perhaps the unluckiest driver of the year. Today, it's got to change, friend, hasn't it?
Yeah, I hope so, Dave. I think, I think luck and a bit of drivability comes into it. But no, you're right. I think we're going to have a clean race, and I'll see what I can do from here. And hopefully, we'll get somewhere.
Best of luck to you, John Dillon. Thanks so much for talking to me. Thank you, friend, so much. There we have it. We've only got about a minute left. I'm going to be ushered off the grid here. Amanda is still with me.
I'm going to stand behind you.
In prospect, we have a fantastic race to come. The first race of two here at Silverstone. The drivers, Amanda, not drivers, we're presenters, but the drivers are ready, the cars are ready. We are about to go racing. All we need is the voice in the Tower of Power, and that is Mark Werrell.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Dave. So the cars are on the grid. Let's have a quick look at an onboard lap provided by number 77, Paul Simerson, in the Grey Paul Birmingham car. So here's a lap of Silverstone and the Grand Prix circuit. And then we'll dab the brake for Abby, hug the corner, almost flat through farm, and then as you head up towards Village, you go down through the gears, down into third gear, hook up the apex, short acceleration up towards the loop, critical corner. Concentrate on the exit, carry speed out of the corner because you'll be going flat out through the kink, the left-hander at Aintree and onto the Wellington straight. Let the car just run out wide, be conscious of the circuit limits underneath the vehicle bridge. BRDC centre coming up on your right-hand side as you head towards Brooklands. Late on the brakes, trail brake into the corner, grab a late apex, down a couple of gears, and then the short squirt up towards Luffield. Third gear. Again, late apex, V it off on the exit of the corner and ensure you're on the power early to get a nice, good exit through the flat-out right-hand kink at Woodcut and over the start-finish line on what used to be the old Grand Prix circuit. It's the National Straight. You're already halfway through the lap at this point. Up towards Copse Corner. Oh, dab of brakes, power on early. Don't let the car run too wide. Make sure you avoid those track limits as you head up to 6th. And go flat through the left-hander at Maggots. Slight brake for the first right-hander. You're down to 5th for the first part of Beckett's. If anything, just lose a bit of speed through that left-hand aspect, because through the right-hander you need to be back on the power and concentrating on a good exit out of Chapel and all the way down the Hanger Straight. So you'll be up to 6th gear. Some drivers might pop it up into 7th, depending on the qualifying lap or the racing lap that they are on, as you head up towards Stowe Corner. Late on the brakes, balance the car as you go into the corner, stay tight to the exit and then let the car run out wide towards the exit curb, downhill through the Vale and in towards Club Corner. Again, late brake, third gear. Make sure the car's right the way over to the left-hand side of the circuit because you flick to the right, and on used tyres midway through the race, a slight lift as you then accelerate flat out over the start-finish line. And that is a lap of the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, all 3.66 miles of it. So the cars are on their formation lap. Let's guide you through the grid then and the way that they line up for the 7th round of the championship that's coming up now. Carl Cavers qualified on pole position, alongside is Andrew Morrow. On row 2 of the grid, on the inside, it is going to be the car of Hans Sickins that lines up alongside the leading car from Coppa Shell, which is Paul Hogarth. Row 3 of the grid is John Dillon and Paul Simerson, and row 4 is comprised on the inside by Chris Smith, and alongside is Brands Hatch winner, which is Graham Dazil. Elliot Pickering and Paul Rogers line up there on row number 5 of the grid, and then on row number 6, it's Faisal Al Faisal and Robert Rees. Row 7, Stuart Marsden in that spare car for this weekend has Jonathan Satchel for company. It's William Terrier and Julian Dye that line up there on row number 8. And Peter Hunter is on his own on row number 9 at the tail end of the field. So it's a rolling start. 30 minutes are on the clock. The cars are just heading up towards Club, which is the final corner, and then they will be let loose around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Round 7 of the 2023 Ferrari Challenge UK is about to go green here at Silverstone, the home of the British Grand Prix. Lights are on the gantry, and as they hold the pace steadily up towards the lights, as soon as they go out in the gantry, we're away and racing for the 7th time this season. And as they charge their way up towards the first right-hander at Abbey, Carl Cavers just makes sure he covers off any move from Hans Sickins, and Andrew Morrow is looking to go all the way around the outside by the look of things. Carl Cavers has lost out, and it is Andrew Morrow that has picked up the lead of the race. And now Hans Sickins is through into 2nd place. Carl Cavers down to 3rd, but Hans Sickins a little bit late into the braking area there. There's contact, and Paul Hogarth, the championship leader in Coppa Shell, is turned around. Hopefully he'll be able to hook the gear up and get going, but that's dropped the championship leader way down through the order. Race continues. Andrew Morrow leads as they feed their way out of Aintree, down the Wellington Straight for the first time, with Carl Cavers firmly in the slipstream of his championship rival. But it's the Charles Hurst 488 Evo that leads the way at this stage. So through Hans Sickins around as well, so not sure whether there was contact there, but Hans Sickins just got sideways. Could well have just been cold Pirelli tyres there. He gathered up the moment, but that's dropped him down and behind what looked like John Dillon, who was able to squeeze his way through. So, as was suggested on the grid, there might be a few little issues on the opening lap, and already we've seen a change to the dynamic of the race. Andrew Morrow, the man who's already claimed 3 wins so far this season, leads as they head out of Copse for the first time. Carl Cavers with him in 2nd place, and then those two have got the gap, haven't they, with everything that's unfolded. It's John Dillon that's there in 3rd position as things currently stand, and 4th at the moment. By the look of things, that looks as though that might be, is it Paul Simerson that's there in 4th position. So he'll be more than pleased with that one. Paul, who claimed his first and only Coppa Shell win at Brands Hatch last time out, where he finished 4th overall on that occasion as well. So that's the similar position that he's in at the moment. So up towards the braking area at Stowe at the end of the first lap of the race. There is Faisal Al Faisal, the number 76 car that qualified a bit out of position really, down in 11th place for a man who's finished in the top 4 3 times so far this season. He's left himself a bit of work to do in this one, but there's plenty of time in which to do it, because only now they're about to chalk up the first lap of the race. Andrew Morrow leads. Carl Cavers in 2nd place, is 7/10 of a second back in 2nd position. John Dillon is there in 3rd place. Paul Simerson, Hans Sickins is 5th, and completing the top 6 at the moment is Chris Smith, who's only had 1 podium so far this season in Coppa Shell, and at the moment he is running 2nd of the Coppa Shell entrants. So safely through Village up towards the loop goes our race leader, and remember the championship leader of Trofeo, Pirelli, the championship leader of Coppa Shell, I'm afraid, Paul Hogarth, is in the pit lane. So not the start to the weekend that Paul wanted, and hopefully they'll be able to get him back out for some of the race at least, if it's just a small amount of issue that they need to deal with on that car. Now Hans Sickins is trying to prise the door open here, tries to go the long way round the outside of Paul Simerson. How much fight Paul Simerson will put up is a moot point, because of course that is a Trofeo Pirelli car trying to get past him, and he leads Coppa Shell. Through goes Hans Sickins, so place gained, place lost for Simerson. He drops down to 5th, but still, more importantly, leads Coppa Shell at this stage. But if he looks in his mirrors, who is right there? It's Chris Smith at the wheel of the number 69 car. Chris Smith's best finish in Coppa Shell this year was 3rd place last time out at Brands Hatch. Well, he's up into 2nd in Coppa Shell at the moment, and still has another Trofeo Pirelli car behind him. Yellow windscreen headers for the Coppa Shell cars, red windscreen headers if you run in Trofeo Pirelli. So the leading pair have really broken away over the course of this lap. Andrew Morrow is bringing Carl Cavers with him, but John Dillon sits further back in the order, and as we say, Paul Hogarth into the pit lane. And it does look as though he may not be able to continue in the race, unfortunately. Now Chris Smith is hot on the heels of Paul Simerson here for the lead of Coppa Shell. Ganging up behind them is Faisal Al Faisal, who I did say had qualified a little bit out of position. Well, he started 11th, he's already up into 7th place. And well, it could be 6th before too much longer, as the number 76 car is firmly in the mirrors of the car that lies ahead of him. Let's go down to the pit lane for some reaction.
Well, I'm down here in the pits with Paul Hogarth. Paul, that was hugely disappointing, absolute bitter on your first couple of corners. Just tell us what happened and why you've had to retire.
I'm just not entirely sure what went on there, but Han went wide and I think I was tagged from behind, and then I was put into a spin, which is just horrific, and we've done some serious damage to the back. So
it looks like, yeah, certainly there's a significant bit of damage to the back. Do you think you're going to be able to sort it out for tomorrow, or is it too early?
I'm sure the boys will be able to sort it for tomorrow, definitely, yeah. But
is it just racing? Is it one of those things?
Definitely, I think, but I just, I need to have a look at the onboard and just see what happened, but it's just really a critical stage for me, and it's just not good luck, is it? Bad luck.
No, well, in the points, having a DNF is going to hurt.
It definitely, yeah, big time. Big time. Thank you.
Sorry, Paul. Thanks a lot.
Such a shame for Paul Hogarth there, and yeah, I'm sure we'll see him back out tomorrow, but that's pretty much 0 championship points for him in reality. He was leading, of course, Coppa Shell coming into this one, but he's not going to score many over the course of today. He will get the extra point for pole, but that's about it in reality. 24 minutes to go. Andrew Morrow not quite being shadowed to the same degree by Carl Cavers for the lead of the race, but there's still 3/4 of a second between the pair of them, and 3.2 seconds back off that is John Dillon, who lies in 3rd. But up to 4th now has come Hans Sickins. He's gone through and ahead of Paul Simerson, as we saw. How much can he now start to try and close in and ask a few questions of the 3rd place car overall, which is John Dillon, because this leading pair have broken away quite substantively as they head over the start-finish line and now complete lap number 3. In the background there is, by the look of things, the car of Hans Sickins, who is already up into 3rd. John Dillon, therefore, will have dropped down into 4th position. But this leading pair now enjoy almost a 4-second lead. Last time through, though, Carl Cavers popped in the fastest lap of the race that we've seen so far. 2 minutes 6.662 for Carl Cavers. That will net him an extra championship point if things remain the way they are. Coppa Shell still being led now by Chris Smith, who has found his way through it ahead of Paul Simerson. So Chris Smith could be on for a win in Coppa Shell if he stays where he is. He's having a great run. The number 69 car running in 5th place overall. That will please Great Paul Birmingham. Unfortunately, he's taken away from his Great Paul Birmingham teammate Paul Simerson the lead of Coppa Shell. So there is the number 77 car of Paul Simerson. We can see the brake disc glowing as he heads in towards the braking area for Brooklands. It is Graham Dezeal, the Brands Hatch winner, that sits directly behind him. And Graham Dezeal running in Coppa Shell a few seasons ago. He now runs in Trofeo Pirelli. He was the Coppa Shell champion back in 2021, but as for this year, stepped up to Trofeo Pirelli. So good fights all the way down through the order. Faisal Al Faisal, his progress continues as well. So he qualified 11th and is now up into 6th place. And look ahead of him, you've got the Coppa Shell leader Chris Smith, not that far up the road, and John Dillon in the Italian Tricolore liveried car, not too far away either. So what we've got there is 4th, 5th and 6th, all not separated by a great deal. And Faisal Al Faisal gets a good run coming out of Chapel Curve and is going to work his way through and past Chris Smith, who lets him go. He's not going to put the fight up because he'll be fully focused on making sure that he continues to maintain the lead in Coppa Shell at this stage. So Faisal Al Faisal through, Chris Smith 6th, but still leading Coppa Shell. Paul Simerson 7th, and it's Graham Dezeal, Stuart Marsden and Paul Rogers completed the top 10 at the moment. Leading pair will go back over the start-finish line. This is the completion of the 4th lap they're all coming up to currently. We've got just over 21 minutes remaining still, and as they flash their way over the start-finish line, the gap that we now need to keep an eye on is John Dillon back to Faisal Al Faisal. It does look as though there's a little bit of damage just to the front end of John Dillon's car. So once onboard footage has been looked at, they may well be able to establish exactly where that little dint just to the front of his 488 Evo has occurred. So John wrestling the car round through the loop. You can see him just taking a little bit of steering input out and putting it back in again as he tried to contain the oversteer on the exit of the corner. Has that compromised his run down the Wellington Straight and allowed Faisal Al Faisal to close in? Well, I don't think so. Also for the lead, Carl Cavers has worked tirelessly hard to bring the gap down from 3/4 of a second between himself and the car ahead. Well, as you can see, it's now down to just 1/4 of a second. So Carl Cavers pushing hard, seeing if he can close in on the current championship leader in Trofeo Pirelli that lies ahead. Let's remember that Andrew Morrow, it's only his 2nd season really of racing. He finished runner-up in Trofeo Pirelli last year. So 20 minutes to go. The first third of the race has elapsed. The lead battle still continuing at this stage. And through the first third of this lap, it looks as though Andrew Morrow has been about 1/10 of a second quicker than Carl Cavers, who runs a little bit wide there coming out of Beckett's and through Chapel Curve. Now that might have just slowed his exit coming down the Hanger Straight, but I think he's not going to lose too much time because he's firmly in the toe still of the Irishman that lies ahead. So through Stowe Corner, and then the corner just drops away on exit a little bit there. Slight adverse camber on the exit of the corner, but you can see both cars working terribly hard. The nose of the two 488 Evos dip at exactly the same time, and Carl Cavers is going to try and get on the power and see whether he can sit in the slipstream again as they come onto the Hamilton Straight this time through. So what did the gap do between the pair last time through? It came down by about 20 thousandths of a second. That was about all. It stands at just under 4/10 of a second now, the gap first to second place. So safely out of farm into the braking area for Village, and then as soon as you turn through the right hand, you have to go all the way back to the right hand side of the circuit from the left to go through the tightest corner on the circuit, which is the left hander at the loop. So critical to get cleanly off that corner. And so the last lap times from both of them, nothing between them, 23 thousandths of a second, so they are evenly matched for pace. But for Carl Cavers, he's not as yet in the position that he wants to be. Qualified on pole and briefly dropped down to 3rd until that problem befell Hans Sickins, and now he's back into 2nd and still trying to hunt down his first win of the championship season is Carl. So he's had, what, 3 second places already so far this year and 3 third places. So he's about done, I think, with those steps of the podium. He'd like the top one for a change, but still work to be done if he wants that. And still, Andrew Morrow continues to lead. That's a spin, and that's Peter Hunter, who's had a rotation somewhere. And that looks as though that might possibly be early on in the lap for Peter Hunter. So hopefully he'll be able to get going again. And the car is stricken, I'm afraid, which means that we are going to go full course caution because of the number 82 Stratstone Manchester car having not been able to get its engine running again. If it was just a harmless spin, it's probably just a little bit of heat soak in the car, and once the car just cools down a little bit, he'll be off and gone. But safety car is called because of the position where Peter Hunter has come to rest, which means that that is good for Hans Sickens, because he was 4 3/4 seconds adrift of the leading pair. Well, now the safety car is out, he's going to be able to catch right back up with both Andrew Morrow and with Carl Cavers. So it's no longer going to be 2 for the lead. Once we get this incident sorted out, we're going to have a whole raft of cars looking to try and work their way through the order and gain positions. So over the start-finish line now go. Let's just confirm the order for you. Andrew Morrow leads the race, and of course, remember, he leads the Trofeo Pirelli standing. Second in the race is the pole sitter, number 51, Carl Cavers, and third is the number 16 car in the hands of H. Sickens. John Dillon is there in 4th place at the wheel of the 61 car, with Faisal Al Faisal from 11th now up to 5th on the grid. Really good work from him. And 6th is the first of the Coppa Shell cars that we've got in the order, which is the number 69 car of Chris Smith, trying to hunt down his first win in Coppa Shell so far this season. Paul Simerson and Stuart Marsden are 7th and 8th, and both of those cars are in Coppa Shell as well, so we could have 5 cars fighting for the overall lead of Trofeo Pirello, and then the next 3 will all be fighting for the top 3 places in Coppa Shell. So whilst we remain on the safety car, let's go down to Dave, who's in the pit lane.
Thank you very much. What I'm going to try and do is steam in here and have a word with Lewis Plato, who's Carl Cavers' driver coach, to see Carl has really improved. He's narrowed that gap right down, and now safety car, and I understand safety car's coming in at the end of this lap. So live, Lewis is speaking to Carl. What can you do to motivate him to find that little bit he needs to get by Andrew Morrow?
I think a lot of it's just really trying to trim all the lap together. He's got the pace, and I think, like I say, just trying to keep on his own strategy, not following Andrew on some of his lines. We've got 15 minutes to go, so yeah, hopefully he can sort of just get his head together and really see if we can get a move on him.
Thanks for talking to us, Lewis. So there you have it then, live from the horse's mouth almost. That is Lewis Plato, driver coach to Carl Cavers, who's currently P2. Safety car, I given to understand, Mark, is about to come to an end.
Yep, Dave Richardson down there in the pit lane. Confirmation on the screens, the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. And yeah, Carl Cavers knows Lewis Plato well. They've worked together for a good number of years and are good mates as well as driver, coach and driver, and share cars as well in other championships. So safety car will be peeling its way into the pit lane this time through. The lights are still on at the moment. It will be down the Hanger Straight where the safety car will extinguish its lights. So Andrew Morrow from Carl Cavers, H. Sickens from John Dillon, Faisal Al Faisal from Chris Smith, Chris being the leading Coppa Shell car, Paul Simerson, Stuart Marsden, Graham Desile and Paul Rogers complete the top 10 as things currently stand. Then it's Robert Rees from Elliott Pickering, Jonathan Satchell from William Tewier, and then it is going to be Julian Dye, who is the last of the runners at the moment, because I think Peter Hunter, who brought about the safety car, I'm not sure he has actually made it back round. I think that car might have just been moved out of harm's way wherever it came to rest on the circuit, which I think was somewhere in the first sector potentially. So safety car is now accelerating its way away from the pack, so Andrew Morrow will control the pace, the man who we saw bring this gorgeous Ferrari 488 Evo Challenge spec car up the Goodwood Hill at the Festival of Speed a few weeks ago. You can see him on and off the brakes, accelerating and braking to maintain a bit of brake temperature and critical tyre temperature, and he gets on it straight away to get the restart of the race underway with just under 14 minutes to go. We're going to have 5 cars squabbling for the lead of Trofeo Pirelli, and then the next 3 cars in 6th, 7th and 8th place, Chris Smith, Paul Simerson and Stuart Marsden, squabbling over who wants to come out on top in Coppa Shell. So it is beautifully poised as Paul Simerson looks to the inside of Chris Smith and can't quite squeeze his way through into the lead of Coppa Shell for the moment. They all remain in the same order. Paul Simpson might have another little nibble as they head up towards Village Corner, and by the look of things, Faisal Al Faisal is also having a little nibble at John Dillon, who again had that little wiggle just coming out of the loop, and that has allowed Faisal Al Faisal to squeeze his way through, and well, that was close. You could see the car was on the very edge of adhesion there, but Faisal Al Faisal gains the place. That slows down John Dillon and now puts him under attack from the leading Coppa Shell car in the hands of Chris Smith. Brilliant stuff, but it's 3 now for the overall lead, and is Andrew Morrow going to get undone here by Carl Cavers, who's almost got his nose at the inside, but just about. Andrew Morrow got the door closed there, so it's still Morrow from Carl Cavers and H. Sickins as they start to accelerate their way out of Woodcup, down the National Straight and up towards Copse Corner. Hans Sickins pulling out of the slipstream of Carl Cavers to show the nose of the car, to try and put off Carl, but he's having none of that. Nice and neat and tidy out of Copse, has good momentum and is looking to see if he can cling right onto the coattails of Andrew Morrow as they flick their way through Maggots and then up towards Beckett's, through the second left-hand aspect of Beckett's and then the right-hand aspect on the throttle. Get out of Chapel, nice and neat and tidy. Subtly different lines between the race leader Andrew Morrow and Carl Cavers, who is using all of the curbs but no more than that, and they start to build the speed again up towards 6th gear as they head down towards Stowe Corner. Carl Cavers throws a dummy, looks for the inside line, but Andrew Morrow's got it covered off, so the order still remains the same. It's still the race leader and championship leader Andrew Morrow that is out front and leading the way for Charles Hurst at the moment, and in second position it's Carl Cavers representing Greypool Nottingham. So they're safely through Club Corner and about to head onto the Hamilton Straight once more. Andrew Morrow, Carl Cavers, Hans Sickins, Faisal Al Faisal still there in 4th position. Is he any quicker than those ahead is the big question. Well, not on that lap because he had a bit of overtaking to do, but maybe on the next, and there's problems, I'm afraid. Elliot Pickering, by the look of things, has come together with Robert Rees, and I think it's probably just a light touch between the pair of them. Elliot Pickering is reversing away. Robert Rees is stricken at the moment, and hopefully that won't need a further intervention of a safety car as they sort themselves out. 11 minutes of the race still to go. Elliot Pickering has been able to rejoin, and Robert Rees has as well by the look of things, so good stuff. They did manage to get themselves going once more. I think it was probably just the lightest of touches between them because there's no obvious signs of any damage on those cars. Andrew Morrow continuing to lead the way as he heads now for the 9th time round through Luffield. He was under attack from Carl Cavers at this point of the circuit earlier on. Well, it looks as though Carl Cavers is still putting the race leader under pressure with 10.5 minutes to go. And now we've got a good fight going on for the final podium spot, with Hans Sickins feeling the pinch a little bit from the number 76 car of Faisal Al Faisal that sits right behind you. Remember, Faisal Al Faisal has come from 11th on the grid at the moment. I did say he'd qualified a little bit out of position. Well, he's in his accustomed 4th place, really. He's had 3 4th places so far this season, but hasn't been on the podium. What might he be able to do about that in the final third of the race? So safely out of Beckett and then Chapel. Looks as though Carl Cavers is getting a good run here on Andrew Morrow. Andrew might have to go defensive as they head up towards Stowe Corner. He is. He's hugging the right-hand side of the circuit. Carl Cavers therefore goes to the left-hand side to take as wide a sweep into the corner as he can to try and get on the power that little bit earlier. The two are still together as they head down through the Vale. And again, Andrew Morrow a little bit defensive, just making sure he covers off the inside line in towards the left-hander at Club, and hopefully he won't compromise his exit speed as well. And this little squabbling between the leading pair has just allowed the 16 car of Hans Sickins to begin to close in, representing HR Owen of London, and he's bringing with him Faisal Al Faisal as well, who has just set in 4th place the fastest lap of the race we've seen so far, 2 minutes 6.216 from Faisal Al Faisal. So for the moment, that now nets him an extra championship point for the fastest lap. Faisal Al Faisal again getting ever closer to Hans Sickins. We saw some brilliant driving from Faisal Al Faisal at Brands Hatch when he was on the ragged edge but beautifully controlling the car, and it's the same here. He really gets hold of his Ferrari 488 Evo, wrestles it around the circuit. It's spectacular to see, and it's certainly working for him here as they head past the BRDC Centre for what is the 10th time of asking. 4 for the lead of the race. Still in 5th place is John Dillon, and leading Coppa Shell is now Stuart Marsden, who has managed to get himself through and ahead of Chris Smith. And remember, Stuart Marsden is in the spare car. 12th and 13th are together as well. William Terrier's coming under pressure from Julian Dye as those two head down towards the bottom section of the Wellington Straight. Whilst the race leaders head round through Copse Corner with Andrew Morrow, I think, has been caught again very slightly by Carl Cavers over the course of this lap. Andrew Morrow was very slightly slower through the first sector of the lap. Carl Cavers is right with him again by the time they get towards Maggotts and Beckett's. Hans Sickins and Faisal Al Faisal aren't too far away either. So this time, what does Carl Cavers do? Gets another good run coming out of Chapel Curve, but every time he gets a good run, he gets close to Andrew Morrow, heading down towards Stowe Corner, but can't really utilise it as an overtaking opportunity. Again, Andrew Morrow takes a slightly defensive line in towards Stowe Corner, so Carl Cavers uses all of the opportunity to take the normal racing line, and will try and get a bit more exit speed coming down in towards the braking area for Club. Is he going to try anything there? No is the answer. And the difficulty now for Carl Cavers is that if he tries something and it doesn't work, Hans Sickins is right with him. And then if the door is open, Faisal Al Faisal could squeeze his way through as well. So it's 4 for the lead of the race. They run a little bit wide coming out of Club that time through with 7 minutes to go. The top 4 cars are separated by just over a second. 1.046 of a second separates the top 4 at the moment. And Sickins up the inside of Carl Cavers. That was close. Carl just got the door closed as they went in towards the braking area for Village Corner. That compromised the exit coming out of Village and up towards the loop for Hans Sickins, which instantly puts him under pressure from Faisal Al Faisal. Well, Hans Sickins came from a long, long way back there. The door was open and Carl Cavers just got it slammed and bolted in time there. In the meantime, Faisal Al Faisal is flashing his lights at Hans Sickins and is looking to try and squeeze his way through as they head up towards Brooklands. The door is open and Faisal Al Faisal is going to try and go through when they get towards Loughfield. He still gives Hans Sickins just enough room. The two of them are almost wheel to wheel midway through the corner. They are side by side on the exit of the corner, and Faisal Al Faisal has finally got the job done. Brilliant stuff from him. He goes from 11th now up into 3rd position with just over 6 minutes of the race to go, but having just taken up 3rd, he's instantly under pressure from Hans Sickins, the man he's just taken away that place away from. So 6 minutes to go through the left-hander at Maggotts, up towards the first of the right-hand aspects of Beckett's, back to the left again. Fantastic section of corners there, and we've got lots of smoke at Copse Corner and a part spin for the man who was leading Coppa Shell. Stuart Marsden, I think, has had a spin. He's recovered, but he will have lost the lead of Coppa Shell, and I think that will go back into the way of the number 69 car of Chris Smith for the lead of Coppa Shell. He should be up to 6th at the end of this lap, but for the overall lead of the race, it was ever still Andrew Morrow, who is having to drive the wheels off his 670 brake horsepower, 3.9 litre turbocharged V8 engined 488 Evo to try and keep Carl Cavers at bay. The two of them are still together as they negotiate the double apex right-hander at Club Corner and head now onto lap number 12 with just over 5 minutes remaining. Andrew Morrow, Carl Cavers, Faisal Al Faisal and Hans Sickins, the top 4 at the moment. We're getting a quick replay of what happened at Copse Corner. You can see Stuart Marsden just got sideways, ran a little bit wide over the curbs. The car was already sideways and that just unsettled the car more. Huge cloud of smoke, and I think it was a full 360-degree spin. Hooked up the gear, got going, but it has dropped him to 3rd in Coppa Shell now and 8th overall as the number 69 car of Chris Smith picks up the lead in Coppa Shell once more. So 4.5 minutes to go. Andrew Morrow not quite under the same amount of pressure this time through when they get towards Brooklands as he has been from Carl Cavers behind. Stuart Marsden is now coming under pressure from the number 20 car, which is the purple and day-glow pink car of Paul Rogers. Can Paul do anything heading up towards Brooklands? No. So it's still Stuart Marsden on the final podium spot in Coppa Shell. He's not had a win in Coppa Shell as yet this season as Stuart Marsden. He was on for one, but he's now dropped to 3rd in the category and may well drop off the podium if Paul Rogers can do anything about it. The man who finished runner-up in Coppa Shell last year is giving him a thing or two to think about at the moment. And it has just allowed Chris Smith in the lead of Coppa Shell to sprint away to a large degree. The car of Chris Smith, the number 69 car, is now about 2.5 seconds up the road from everybody else squabbling over 2nd, 3rd and 4th in Coppa Shell, which is Paul Simerson, Stuart Marsden and then the car of Paul Rogers. So those three cars just exiting Chapel now and heading onto the Hangar Straight, close to each other but not close enough so as to mount a challenge for each other. Just off the back of them is Graham Dazil, who runs in 10th place overall. I know Graham was feeling slightly under the weather yesterday and was hoping to have felt a little bit more chipper today. I bumped into him over the course of the lunch break and he seemed to be in good spirits, so hopefully he's feeling absolutely 100%. Certainly feeling 100%. If he can hang on to the lead, he'll be delighted. The number 69 car of Chris Smith, I think, is slightly having his lead advantage in Coppa's shallow roaded. Not by much at all. Contact between cars 37 and 8 will be investigated. That's the two cars that we just saw have a few little issues. For the moment, though, the race continues with 2.5 minutes remaining, and Andrew Morrow still leading the way, and Carl Cavers still trying to scratch his head and work out where the first win of the season might come from in the Ferrari Challenge. He's, I think, in full attack mode again. He had just dropped off a very small degree, and the gap between the pair of them was about half a second. We've got another spin, and that's Stuart Marsden that's had another off by the look of things. Now, where is that? That could well be coming out of Chapel, where he's had the spin, heading onto the Hangar Straight. He's spun harmlessly off onto the grass on the left-hand side, and he's having to now do a 180-degree turn to get the car pointing back round in the right direction, but that's undone all of the hard work that Stuart Marsden had been doing. So he'd already lost the lead of the category with one issue at Copps, and now he's going to drop further down through the order, whilst the race leaders are still squabbling away on what is the penultimate lap of the race this time through. And again, Carl Cavers is in full attack mode. He's as close to Andrew Morrow as he's been so far. He draws himself alongside as they head down the Hangar Straight, but he's on the outside line for Stowe Corner. He knows if the car drops, he's not going to try and brave it round the outside. He's going to take a nice sweep in and see if he can prise the door open as they head down in towards Club Corner. But Andrew Morrow will go defensive on the way in towards Club, I would have thought. Carl Cavers looks up the inside, then realises that Faisal Al Faisal is trying to overtake him, so he's looking to take the lead of the race and nearly dropped to third there. And Faisal Al Faisal is still in third place and trying to hunt down not just the first podium of the year, but if he could make it a second place rather than the third, he'd be delighted with that. The difficulty is for Faisal Al Faisal, he lost a little bit of time there with that attempt to attack and has now dropped himself back into the clutches of the number 16 car of Hans Sickins again. Now, Carl Cavers so late on the brakes, heading in towards the braking area for Village, and has squeezed his way through and ahead of Andrew Morrow. But Andrew Morrow fights back as they head up towards the loop, bounces over the curbs to try and avoid contact. But Carl Cavers is through and has picked up the lead of the race. He was so late on the brakes, the back wheels were locked, the door was open. Andrew Morrow saw him coming, and Carl Cavers is through into the lead of the race. And Andrew Morrow is down into second place. But that was a brilliant and late overtake from Carl Cavers. And sensible driving from Andrew Morrow as well, who saw that he was coming and thought, you know, if I turn in now, there's going to be contact, and that's going to be no good for either of us. So sensible driving, just let Carl Cavers go through, pick up the lead of the race, and think about the championship here. Andrew Morrow would love the win, but second place is more championship points as far as he's concerned. And considering that Hans Sickins, his main championship rival at the moment, is in fourth place, it's still outscoring your main championship rival, and that is hugely important. But for Andrew Morrow, there's still work to do, you know, because he's got Faisal Al Faisal breathing right down his neck, and in Faisal Al Faisal's Pirelli wheel tracks is Hans Sickins as well, as they thread their way for the final time around through Beckett's. Onto the Hangar Straight, they will work their way. Since taking the lead of the race, the early stage of this lap, Carl Cavers has opened up a little bit of a gap between himself and Andrew Morrow, who again is coming under pressure from Faisal Al Faisal. Hans Sickins is flashing his lights in the background in fourth place as they head up towards Stowe Corner. But time and opportunities are running out here for Faisal Al Faisal if he wants to gain a further place on the podium. Well, he's too far back as they head up towards Club, so what he will do is make sure he takes a defensive line in towards Club Corner and hang on to third and prevent Hans Sickins coming through. But for his first win of the season and the win in round 7 of the Ferrari Challenge UK up towards the checkered flag, it's a win for Carl Cavers. Andrew Morrow is there in second position, and Faisal Al Faisal heads onto the podium for the first time this year to finish in third position. Hans Sickins comes through to finish in fourth place, and then there's a bit of a wait before we see the car in fifth come through, which will be John Dillon who crosses the line now in 5th position. And 6th place, it is going to be a win in Coppa Shell for the first time this year for Chris Smith. He'll be absolutely delighted with that, will Chris Smith, who comes through to finish in 6th place and win Coppa Shell. Paul Simerson finishes in 7th place and will be 2nd in Coppa Shell, and 3rd in Coppa Shell will be Paul Rogers, and now that's his first podium in Coppa Shell so far this year. Graham Dazil, Jonathan Satchell, William Terrier and Julian Dyer all take the checkered flag as well. But it will be delight for Carl Cavers. We heard from his pro driver coach, Lewis Plato, earlier on, and, well, he found what he needed, and that is, having been the bridesmaid for so long, as was alluded to by Amanda Stretton at the beginning of the programme, well, he is now finally the bride. So Carl Cavers picks up the win overall and the win in Trofeo Pirelli. He will be enormously pleased with that, and it's not done his championship aspirations any harm at all either. I think that will put him up into sort of mid-80s now in terms of championship points, and with Hans Sickens finishing in 4th place in that race, he might actually move up to 2nd overall in the championship, I would have thought, subject to doing some mathematics over the course of this evening. So what an overtake it was for Carl Cavers. He threw everything at it as they went up towards the braking area for Village at the start of the final lap, and with that brave move up the inside, finally heads onto the top step of the Ferrari Challenge UK podium. So all the cars just now threading their way back around the circuit and in towards the pit lane area. We will of course get some reaction from down there in the pits before too much longer. Good to see that also taking the checkered flag was Robert Rees after his small little problem out at track, where he was sideways and stricken in the circuit but got the car fired up again and continued. So I think it was just Peter Hunter and Paul Hogarth who weren't able to complete the race. So in towards the pit lane comes Carl Cavers. There'll be delight for him, delight for Lewis Plato, driver coach, who has worked with Carl Cavers for a good number of years now to bring him on as a driver, and they net their first win in the 2023 Ferrari Challenge UK Trofeo Pirelli here at Silverstone for round 7 of the championship. The penultimate weekend of racing. We'll see round 8 taking place tomorrow, and then it's only 2 weeks' time where we'll crown our champions potentially, and that will be over on mainland Europe at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. So the cars all heading in towards the pit lane. It looks rather busy down there in the pit lane as they all try and thread their way into the garage area and Parc Fermé area. William Terrier heads in towards the pit lane, and I think there's probably only another 1 or 2 now to head in towards the pit lane, and I think we've got them all then as well. Where did Stuart Marsden finish in the end after his double spin? He finished, sadly, 8th in Coppa Shell. He was leading it, wasn't he? Such a shame for him. 8th in Coppa Shell, when it could otherwise have been a win. So the sun glinting off the cars. It really has been 2 very different days here at Silverstone. Let's confirm the results for you then. Carl Cavers wins the 7th round of the championship from Andrew Morrow in 2nd place, and Faisal Al Faisal from 11th on the grid comes through to claim 3rd and his first podium of the season. Hans Sickens was there in 4th place with John Dillon in 5th, and Chris Smith claims his first win in Coppa Shell so far this season as he finished in 6th position. Paul Simerson was in 7th place ahead of Paul Rogers in 8th place. Brands Hatch winner Graham Dazil 9th, and Jonathan Satchell completes the top 10. Then outside of the top 10 in 11th position, we can see that it is going to be William Terrier that finished in 11th position. 12th place will be the car of Julian Dye, and 13th place will be Robert Rees, who finished in 13th position. So let's head down to Amanda Stretton to get some reaction from some of the drivers down there in the pit lane.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm here with Andrew Morrow. What a race. I mean, it looked like you had the jump at the start and you really had quite a commanding lead even through the safety car, but Carl just grabbed you at the end there.
Yeah, I got away at the start good. Just as the race went on, the safety car came out, and after the safety car managed to build a wee gap. Towards the end, just lost a lot of pace. Was struggling with the tyres. It is what it is. Car dived down the inside and got me, but no, it was a good race.
Good race. So it was tyres. Was that what was happening? You sort of maybe were just losing a bit of grip and traction?
Yeah, just traction out of the corners, trying to accelerate out was a lack of traction there. Struggled to drive away. Back end was playing about a bit, so just car managed to close up me in a few points. But no, all in all, I'm happy enough.
And towards the end of the race, the group really did start to close in as well, with Han coming into the mix, and then of course lots of other incidents on track as well. Was that distracting?
Yeah, on track there's quite a lot of debris, so I suppose at times you're trying to avoid that. The last thing you want at the end of the race is a puncture. But guys behind me, I try to just focus on the road ahead and see what we'll have to do. I didn't want to focus behind, then you start making mistakes. So.
Great stuff. Okay, well, thanks very much. We'll talk to you later.
So it was a win for Carl Cavers, who claimed his first win of the championship season at the wheel of the number 51 car representing Greypool Nottingham. He was the winner of Trofeo Pirelli. Second in Trofeo Pirelli, we've just heard from him down there in the pit lane representing Charles Hurst, was Andrew Morrow, the championship leader. He'll be more than pleased that he outscored his main championship rival. And onto the podium for the first time in Trofeo Pirelli this year, Faisal Al Faisal finished in third place. Had some work to do though from 11th on the grid. Those were the top three in Trofeo Pirelli. Coppa Shell, first win of the season, went the way of Greypool Birmingham's Chris Smith, who came home victorious at the wheel of the number 69 car. Second in Coppa Shell was going to be the car of Paul Simerson, and third in Coppa Shell it was Paul Rogers at the wheel of the number 20 car. So those were the top three in each of the respective ones. So let's look back then. Some of the highlights, round 7 of the 2023 Ferrari. Hogarth, the championship leader in Coppa Shell, pitched into a spin. H. Sickins had a problem. I think it might have been a slight touch between himself and John Dillon, but H. Sickins was back in it, trying to carve his way through the order. Faisal Al Faisal was going to have to do some work to work his way up from a lowly qualifying position, having qualified down in 11th position. He slowly picked off Chris Smith, who was in the lead of Coppa Shell, and then was looking to try and close in on John Dillon to pick up a further place. His progress wouldn't stop there though. Further down through the order, Graham Dazil was involved in a brilliant little squabble with Paul Rogers, but heading through the order, finally Faisal Al Faisal would get through and ahead of John Dillon, and would also work his way up onto the overall podium for the first time this season. Carl Cavers was still sitting behind Andrew Morrow for the lead of the race, and then further down through the order, William Terrier was having a great little battle with Julian Dye as they were squabbling over places down towards the bottom of the top 12. William Terrier would eventually, using a little bit of curve, work his way through. Stuart Marsden had a very fast spin heading round through Copse Corner, did a full 360-degree spin, hooked the gear, continued, but that did lose him the lead of Coppa Shell. And also losing the lead of Trofeo Pirelli was Andrew Morrow. There was almost contact between himself and Carl Cavers heading round through Village and the Loop, but Carl Cavers finally squirted his way through to claim his first win of the 2023 championship season from Andrew Morrow in second place, and Faisal Al Faisal, who completed the overall podium. And that was round 7 of the championship here at Silverstone. Carl Cavers absolutely delighted with the win, as will his professional driver coach, Lewis Plato. So we can see the cars are being positioned back into their garages, and in the meantime I think Amanda Stretton is down there in the pit lane with somebody else to chat to. Who have you got this time, Amanda? So cars being pushed back into their garages. Apologies that we lost the audio of Amanda down there in the pit lane. We'll try and get that back for you, but lots of work to be done, of course, just because the racing is over for the day here. There's lots more work to be done. The drivers will debrief with their pros and with their teams. They'll be looking through the data all night as well to try and understand as to where they can find those critical extra few tenths or so. And of course, we've got more qualifying and another race to look forward to tomorrow as well. There's some maths to do overnight as well, because I think Carl Cavers, with that win, will move up to second in the Trofeo Pirelli standings. And of course, Paul Hogarth, with his retirement and not being able to conclude that race, will lose ground on his main championship rival, Paul Simerson, who scooped up second place in the standings for Coppa Shell. So it's going to make the maths very interesting. It's tightened up both championships in reality. And it probably means that, as is always nice to see, that we probably are not going to be able to crown a champion tomorrow. It's all going to go to Spa-Francorchamps for the final season. So let's have a quick look in a few moments' time. I think the maths has already been done. Have a look at the point standings. Andrew Morrow still leads the Trofeo Pirelli standings on 101 championship points from Carl Cavers, who does move up to second. So I did get my maths right. And Hans Sickens is just now 7 points adrift in third. John Dillon sits there fourth. Faisal Al Faisal moves up to fifth, and Graham Dazil drops down into sixth position with Elliot Pickering completing seventh in Trofeo Pirelli. Those are the Trofeo Pirelli standings, and in the Coppa Shell we should be able to get a quick look at what's going on in Coppa Shell following that retirement for Paul Hogarth. He still continues to lead, but his lead advantage has been slashed. Paul Simerson is now just 11 points adrift of Paul Hogarth in the championship battle in Coppa Shell. Jonathan Satchel moves up to third, and up to fourth comes Chris Smith. Stuart Marsden, with his double spin, drops from third down to fifth, unfortunately. Then it's Paul Rogers, Peter Hunter, Julian Dye, and then William Terrier moves up from 10th to 9th and drops down from 9th to 10th, Robert Rees. And that's the championship order in Coppa Shell. So that's brought you up to date with the championship mathematics. Now it's probably time to hand you downstairs to Dave Richardson in advance of the podium presentations.
Here we are then, Trofeo Pirelli podium. Make sure you're ready with a loud and proud activity to get these drivers out here on the podium then. Trofeo Pirelli taking P3. Here comes Faisal Al Faisal. What a battle ensued, but in the end it was going to be P2 for Andrew Morrow. And I am tempted to say, at bloomin' last, P1, Carl Cavers. So those are our top three in Trofeo Pirelli, and the trophies are going to be presented by our official Ferrari GT driver. Of course, James Collado is here, making the Trofeo Pirelli presentation. First of all to Faisal Al Faisal. What a brilliant race, Faisal. Take it through to P3. Here comes P2, then going the way of Andrew Morrow. And unbelievably, for the first time this season on the top step of the podium, Carl Cavers. And of course, the Drivers' Trophy are not the only trophies, as we welcome Grey Paul Nottingham as well. Of course, they will receive our Coppa Dealer Trophy, which will also be presented by James Collado. And do you know what? As if that were not enough, of course, we bring you such value here because the Pirelli Trophy has got to be awarded as well to Carl Cavers. The Pirelli Motorsport manager, Lucio Vigani, is here. And there we have all of our drivers then on the top step of the podium, the second step of the podium, the third step of the podium. Photographs are being taken right now of our fine drivers and dealer representative as well. And there we can see then the 1, 2, 3 in Trofeo Pirelli as Grey Paul Nottingham then make haste their escape before all the champagne gets sprayed, of course, on the podium. Who will win the champagne race this afternoon? My money is on Faisal Al Faisal. Don't let me down, Faisal. All right, to the bottles we go. Darn it, I got it wrong. Well done and congratulations to everyone. Absolutely brilliant stuff in Trofeo Pirelli. And Carl Cavers, Andrew Morrow, what a fantastic race they had together. And of course, Faisal Al Faisal, who started 11th on the grid and has finished on the podium P3. Brilliant stuff, Faisal. Well done to you. Awesome race.
Yeah, we needed a challenge.
You got it today. Well done, friend. Thank you so much. So well done to all our Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Then we just await Hairy Mary with the mop to come and clean up the podium before we get on to Coppa Shell, which is next to come, of course. Tell you what, if race 2 tomorrow is anything like the race 1 we have had today, we are in for an absolute stunner. So looking forward to that. So there we are. Very nearly everything is assembled, ready for our Coppa Shell podium. Just one bottle to appear on the podium. Thank you, Claudio. Very efficient as always. What a top man is Claudio. Right, are you ready? Stand by. Here comes our Coppa Shell podium. Get into place. Come on. Right, here we go then. Taking P3 at last, Paul Rogers. On the podium for the first time this season. Absolutely unbelievable. Taking P2, here comes Paul Simerson. And what a star this man is. His first win of the season, Chris Smith. And there the drivers there are. That's where you need to go, Chris. Top step of the podium. The trophies are to be presented, and I don't want you to burst into tears here. Mr. Francesco Barley, Ferrari West Europe Regional Manager. Francesco Barley. Trophy presentation, first of all, to Paul Rogers. Then, of course, the P2 trophy to Paul Simerson. And this is one Chris Smith will remember for a very long time. Here comes Chris Smith then with his race winner's trophy. And again, as we're not enough, the managing director of Grey Paul Birmingham is here as well. And the Coppa Dealer trophy presentation will be made once again by the regional manager for Ferrari West Europe, Mr. Francesco Barley. So there we have it then. Thank you, Francesco. Brilliant presentations. Wait a minute. Come on. You should be in there as well for the photos and for the champagne. You're worried about being soaked? Of course not. Come on. So there we have it then. Trophies, dealer, drivers, slippery podium. It matters not. So all the photographs done. And who's going to win the bottle race on this occasion? My money's on Simerson. But I haven't been right with much today, so we will see. Great to see you all assembled here below the podium to salute our drivers. Who's going to win it then? It's Chris Smith. Brilliant stuff. The celebrations get underway for our Coppa Shell podium. Well done to all our drivers. And on that note, it's back to you, Mark Werrell.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Yeah, brilliant way to start our fifth weekend of racing here at Silverstone. Sorry, fourth weekend of racing, I should say. I was right first time at Silverstone. That was round 7 of the championship, but we've got round 8 coming up tomorrow here for a Ferrari Challenge UK. It'll all be streamed live, both qualifying and the race. So thanks for joining us today if you're watching the stream, but we've got it all to do again tomorrow. Until tomorrow, it's goodbye.